The message arrived during the graveyard shift on Outpost Epsilon 9. Commander Lyra Vensk had been staring at the monitor for 7 hours straight, her eyes burning from the strain of watching the endless void. The Deep Space Monitoring Station orbited a nameless pulsar at the edge of the Orion Arm, far from the bustle of Earth's colonies. Most days nothing happened. Today was different. "Commander," called Ensign Dax Oren, his voice cracking with excitement. "We're receiving a signal, non-human origin." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Humanity had made contact with only 3 sentient species in the century since achieving faster-than-light travel. Each encounter had been carefully orchestrated by diplomats after years of preparation. This was something else entirely. "Put it through," she ordered, straightening her uniform as she approached Dax's station. The signal was weak, distorted, but unmistakably artificial. It pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to convey desperation, even before the translation matrix deciphered its contents. When the computer finally processed the alien tongue, the message was simple. "Help us! They are coming! We cannot survive alone!" "Origin?" Lyra asked, her throat suddenly dry. "The Nixian Nebula," Dax replied. "Sector 7 Gamma." Lyra's eyes widened. The Nixian Nebula was unexplored territory, deemed too hazardous for standard survey missions due to intense radiation and gravitational anomalies. No known civilization existed there until now. "Contact Earth Command immediately," she ordered. "Priority Alpha." Earth's response came 12 hours later. The unified Earth government was dispatching a reconnaissance vessel to investigate, but it would take weeks to reach the nebula. Meanwhile, the mysterious signal continued, growing more desperate with each transmission. The third day brought images, horrifying footage of biomechanical ships descending upon a verdant world. The aliens who sent the distress call were revealed. Graceful beings with iridescent skin and 4 arms, their cities built in harmony with towering forests. The attackers were something else entirely, swarms of metallic constructs that consumed everything in their path. "The harvest has begun," the latest transmission reported. "Our shields fail. Our weapons are useless. We believed no one would help. Our world is dying." When Admiral Kento Muraishi of Earth Fleet Command viewed the footage, he made an unprecedented decision. "We're not waiting for reconnaissance. This is a Class 1 extinction event. Deploy the 7th Fleet." His second-in-command, Captain Ekwa Nkosi, looked stunned. "Sir, with all due respect, we know nothing about these people. They could be deceiving us. This could be a trap." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Captain, I've seen this before. Earth history is filled with civilizations that fell because help never came. The Rapa Nui, the Mayans, countless others who reached out as they collapsed. If we have the power to prevent another extinction, we must act." He turned to face the holographic display of the beleaguered alien world. "Besides, what kind of first contact would it be if we simply watched them die?" Within hours, 43 warships broke orbit around Earth's military installations. The ancient Chinese vessel Zhenghe led the formation, followed by the American Armstrong, the Nigerian Shango, and dozens more representing Earth's unified nations. They carried the most sophisticated weapons humanity had ever developed, and they carried something else too. Hope. As the fleet accelerated toward the jump gate that would send them hurtling across the galaxy, Admiral Muraishi addressed his crews. "We don't know what awaits us. We don't know if we'll return, but we know this. When a cry for help echoes across the stars, humanity answers." The 7th Fleet vanished into the quantum tunnel, beginning humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. Back on Outpost Epsilon 9, Commander Lyra Vensk continued monitoring the increasingly desperate transmissions, praying the fleet would arrive in time. No one knew then that this decision would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos. The 7th Fleet emerged from jump space at the edge of the Nixian Nebula in a brilliant flash of light. Radiation alarms immediately blared across every vessel as the nebula's exotic particles bombarded their shields. "Status report," Admiral Moraishi commanded from the bridge of the Junghae. "Shields at 87% and holding," reported Lieutenant Raz Kavi, the ship's tactical officer. "The nebula's affecting our sensors, but we're detecting intense energy discharges consistent with orbital bombardment." Captain Nkosi pointed to a visualization of the inner nebula. "That must be the home world. Sir, we're picking up thousands of artificial signatures surrounding the planet." Through the interference, they caught their first clear glimpse of the conflict. The attacking force wasn't just ships. It was a swarm of interconnected machines that formed and reformed like liquid metal, adapting to any resistance. The defenders' vessels, elegant and crystalline, were being systematically dismantled. "Those things," whispered Kavi. "They're like nothing in our databases." Admiral Moraishi's expression remained stoic. "Deploy reconnaissance drones. I want to understand what we're facing before we engage." The drones revealed a grim reality. The attackers, which the crew now called the Swarm, weren't just destroying the alien civilization, they were consuming it, breaking down matter at the molecular level and absorbing it into their collective mass. "They're a mechanized parasite," concluded Dr. Esme Rivero, the fleet's xenobiologist. "They don't just destroy, they consume and adapt." As the fleet approached the embattled planet, they finally established direct communication with the defenders. A holographic figure appeared on the bridge, tall and slender with 4 graceful arms and skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. Its large eyes, filled with both fear and hope, regarded the humans with evident wonder. "I am Relentless, High Protector of Luminara," the alien spoke, its words processed through the translation matrix. You actually came." "We did not believe anyone would answer." Admiral Moraishi stepped forward. "I am Admiral Kento Moraishi of Earth's Unified Fleet. We received your distress call." Valentrell's expression shifted in a way the humans couldn't quite interpret. "The Great Harvest has already taken half our world. The Mecrovore consume everything, living or mechanical. They arrived without warning 3 cycles ago. Our oldest predictions spoke of them, but we thought them merely legends." "How many of your people remain?" Captain Nkosi asked. 17 million, gathered in our final city beneath the planetary shield, but the barrier weakens. We have perhaps 2 of your Earth days before it fails completely." Admiral Moraishi didn't hesitate. "We'll establish a defensive perimeter around your world. Can you send us data on these Mecrovore, their weaknesses, vulnerabilities?" "We have tried everything in our 1,000 years of technological development," Valan replied, a note of despair in their melodic voice. "They adapt to any weapon we deploy." Lieutenant Kavi suddenly straightened in her chair. "Sir, the swarm has detected us, multiple signatures breaking off and accelerating toward our position." On the view screen, a silvery tide of mechanical horror flowed toward the human fleet, countless. "Machines moving with singular purpose. All vessels, battle formation Delta," ordered Moraishi. "Prepare main weapons." As the distance closed, Valentrell's hologram watched with both hope and doubt. "Your vessels, they are magnificent, but the Mecrovore will analyze and adapt to your weapons." Admiral Moraishi allowed himself a small smile. "There's something you should know about humans, High Protector. We specialize in the unexpected." The Admiral turned to his communications officer. "Signal all ships. Operation Thunderbolt is now in effect." Across the fleet, weapon systems powered up. Not the standard energy weapons the Luminarians might have expected, but something the humans had developed after studying historical records of their own AI conflicts. Electromagnetic pulse weapons, modified to produce nested frequencies, preventing adaptation. "Let's see how these Mecrovore handle a bit of human ingenuity," Moraishi said as the fleet prepared for humanity's first interstellar battle. The void between the human fleet and the approaching Mechrovore swarm shimmered with tension. Admiral Muraishi stood tall, his weathered face illuminated by tactical displays. "Fire first salvo on my mark," he commanded. 3, 2, 1, execute! The EMP weapons discharged simultaneously, sending rippling waves of electromagnetic disruption across space. Where they struck the leading edge of the Mechrovore swarm, machines spasmed and went dark, drifting lifelessly. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Kavi reported. "Approximately 15% of the forward elements neutralized." A cheer went up across the bridge, quickly silenced as Kavi continued. "Sir, the remainder are reconfiguring. On the display, the surviving Mechrovore units clustered together, their structures reforming into denser configurations with outer layers that appeared to function as shields." As predicted, Muraishi nodded. "Signal second wave to deploy frequency modulators. The next volley of EMPs, fired with randomized frequencies." More Mechrovore units faltered, but fewer than before. The swarm was learning, adapting. "They're accelerating toward us," Captain Nkosi warned. "Impact with our defensive line in 45 seconds. Valantrell's hologram watched in stunned silence as humanity engaged the enemy that had nearly annihilated their civilization. When they finally spoke, their voice trembled. "Your weapons, they're actually effective." "How is this possible?" Dr. Rivero answered while analyzing incoming data. "We fought our own battles against artificial intelligence, learned our lessons the hard way." The first wave of Mechrovore struck the fleet's defensive line. Human vessels rocked under the eye. Impact as the machines attempted to latch onto hulls and penetrate shields. "All ships, engage point defense systems," Muraishi ordered. "Rotate shield frequencies according to Protocol Theta." Across the fleet, precisely calculated laser arrays activated, sweeping hulls clean of the invading machines. But for each Mechrovore destroyed, 2 more took its place. On the Nigerian vessel Shango, Commander Ife Okafor faced a crisis as Mechrovore units breached the outer hull. "They're through Deck 7, she reported over the fleet-wide channel. They're consuming the bulkheads." Admiral Muraishi made a swift decision. "Commander Okafor, evacuate all personnel from Deck 7 and adjacent sections. Then execute Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega, the deliberate venting of affected sections to vacuum. A desperate measure, but effective. The Mechrovore, suddenly, exposed to the void, froze in the extreme cold before they could adapt. "Sir," Captain Nkosi said quietly, "we can't keep sacrificing sections of our ships. The Shango just lost 8% of its structure." "I know." Muraishi's jaw tightened. "We need to change tactics." The Admiral turned to his science team. "The Mechrovore adapt to our weapons. What haven't they adapted to yet? What haven't they experienced?" Dr. Rivero looked up from her analysis. "Sir, they appear to be machines designed for consumption and assimilation. Their programming is sophisticated but singular in purpose. They haven't had to counter strategic thinking, only direct defense." Muraishi smiled grimly. "Then we'll give them something new to think about. Captain Nkosi, prepare to execute maneuver. Thermopylae." The captain's eyes widened. "Sir, that's never been attempted outside of simulations." "Today is a day for firsts, Captain." Orders flashed across the fleet. Ships began moving in precise formation, appearing to retreat in disarray. The Mechrovore swarm, sensing victory, pursued eagerly. "They're taking the bait," Kavi confirmed. As the human fleet fell back toward the nebula's densest region, the Mechrovore followed, leaving the path to Luminara temporarily clear. "Now," Muraishi commanded. 12 ships suddenly broke formation, accelerating at maximum thrust, not away from the swarm, but directly through its thinnest point. Their objective, to reach the besieged planet and reinforce its failing shields, while the main fleet drew the Mechrovore away. "The Breakthrough Squadron reports successful penetration," Kavi announced. "They're on course for Luminara ETA 27 minutes." Valentrell's eyes widened in understanding. You're sacrificing yourselves to save us? Not sacrificing, Muraishi corrected. Dividing their forces. Now they must make a choice. Continue pursuing us or protect their prize. As if hearing the Admiral's words, the Mechravore swarm suddenly split. The larger portion continued after the main fleet, while a smaller but substantial force turned back toward Luminara. Just as we hoped, Muraishi said. Now for Phase 2. He opened a channel to the Breakthrough Squadron. Colonel Orlov, you are clear to deploy the firebreak protocol when you reach Luminara. The true nature of humanity's plan was about to be revealed, and the Mechravore were about to learn that humans were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. Colonel Petra Orlov of the Russian vessel Gagarin led the Breakthrough Squadron toward Luminara, the pristine planet now scarred by Mechravore consumption. From orbit, she could see the Stark Division, half the world still vibrant with life, the other half transformed into metallic gray wasteland. Status of pursuing Mechravore units? She demanded. Closing rapidly, Colonel, her tactical officer replied. 4 minutes until intercept. Orlov opened a channel to the planet's surface. High Protector Valentrell, this is Colonel Orlov. We're approaching your position with reinforcements, but we have hostiles in pursuit. We need immediate landing coordinates for your most critical shield generators. The response came swiftly. Transmitting coordinates now. Our main generator complex is in the capital city of Luminar Prime. Please hurry. Shields at 17% and failing. Orlov studied the incoming data. Lieutenant Kwan, take the Curie and the Ramanujan to these coordinates. Deploy the shield reinforcement units. The rest of us will establish a defensive perimeter in orbit. As the designated ships peeled away toward the surface, Orlov addressed her remaining captains. Prepare to execute firebreak protocol on my mark. The pursuing Mechravore closed the distance rapidly, their swarm reconfiguring into attack formation. What they couldn't know was that they were flying into a carefully laid trap. Firebreak protocol initiated, Orlov announced. From the hulls of the human vessels, thousands of tiny objects deployed, each no larger than a human fist. They spread outward, forming a three-dimensional grid between the squadron and the approaching swarm. Graviton mines armed and ready, reported Commander Javier Reyes from the Spanish vessel Atapuerca. Field density optimal, Orlov nodded. Detonate on my mark, now! The mines activated simultaneously, not with conventional explosions, but with precisely calibrated gravitational distortions. Space itself seemed to warp and fold. The leading edge of the Mechravore swarm suddenly found itself caught in localized gravity wells thousands of times stronger than Earth's. Metal strained and shattered as the machines were compressed by forces they couldn't resist. Those that avoided direct compression were torn apart by the gravitational shear between fields. 60% of pursuing forces neutralized, Reyes reported. The remainder are attempting to circumvent the field. As expected, Orlov replied. Lieutenant, Kwan, status of the ground team? Kwan's voice came through, breathless. We've landed at the generator complex. The Luminarians are... They're incredible engineers, Colonel. Their shield technology is beyond anything we've seen. It's not the tech that's failing. They're simply running out of power. Then it's time for Phase 2, Orlov decided. Deploy the fusion boosters. On the surface, human engineers worked alongside the 4 armed Luminarians, connecting portable fusion generators to the alien shield grid. The Luminarians watched in astonishment as the humans modified their equipment with practiced efficiency. Your power sources, one Luminarian engineer named El Rivas remarked. They're so primitive compared to our quantum matrices, yet so robust. Lieutenant Kwan smiled as she calibrated a connection. Sometimes, simple is better. Your quantum matrices might be more efficient, but our fusion generators are nearly impossible to disrupt. Different approaches to the same problem. Above them, the orbital battle continued. The remaining Mechrovore adapted to the graviton mines, splitting into smaller units to minimize gravitational impact. But this made them vulnerable to conventional weapons, which the human vessels deployed with precision. "They're learning," Orlov observed. "But so are we." She opened a channel to Admiral Muraishi. "Colonel Orlov reporting. We've engaged Mechrovore forces at Luminara and deployed ground teams. Shield reinforcement underway." Muraishi's voice came through, punctuated by the sounds of battle. "Well done, Colonel. The main fleet has drawn the bulk of their forces into the nebula's radiation belt. We're taking damage, but so are they. Hold your position until we can regroup." On Luminara's surface, the fusion generators hummed to life. The planetary shield, which had been flickering dangerously, suddenly stabilized, its iridescent barrier strengthening visibly. High Protector Valentrell approached Lieutenant Quan, all four hands clasped in a gesture of profound gratitude. "When we sent our message to the stars, we truly believed no one would help. Our scholars taught us that the universe is cold and indifferent, that advanced civilizations would be either predatory or isolationist." Quan secured the final connection before responding. "Humans have a saying: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We chose to do something." In orbit, Colonel Orlov watched as the remaining Mechrovore units regrouped for another assault. Her ships had formed a protective barrier around Luminara, their weapons primed. "They're coming back," Commander Reyes warned. Orlov's expression hardened. "Let them come. Humanity doesn't abandon those who ask for help." As the second wave of Mechrovore approached, the human squadron prepared for what might be their final stand. But they would not yield, not while innocent lives depended on them. Admiral Muraishi's main fleet was in trouble. Deep within the nebula's radiation belt, the battle against the Mechrovore had devolved into a war of attrition. 3 human vessels had been lost completely, their crews evacuated to other ships before the Mechrovore could consume them entirely. "Shield status across the fleet?" Muraishi demanded, gripping his command chair as the Jung-Hee shuddered under another impact. "Average 31%, sir," Captain Nkosi reported grimly. "The Armstrong and the Gagarin are below 15%. We can't sustain this much longer." The Admiral studied the tactical display. His plan to draw the bulk of the Mechrovore away from Luminara had worked, but at tremendous cost. Now his fleet was surrounded, fighting a defensive battle against an enemy that learned from every encounter. "Sir," Lieutenant Kavi interrupted, "I'm detecting new signatures entering the nebula. I don't recognize the configuration." Muraishi frowned. "Reinforcements for the Mechrovore?" "I don't think so. They're approaching from the opposite vector." The mysterious vessels emerged from the nebula's edge, sleek, organic-looking ships that moved with impossible grace. They numbered in the hundreds, forming a crescent formation as they approached the battle. "We're being hailed," the communications officer announced. A new holographic figure appeared on the bridge, not Luminarian, but something else entirely. The being had a crystalline exoskeleton and compound eyes that reflected light in prismatic patterns. "I am Nexus Coordinator Zivek of the Sentinel Concordat," the alien announced. "Your distress signals have been detected across 17 sectors." Muraishi straightened. "We sent no distress signal." "Not you," Zivek clarified. "The Luminarians. We have monitored their extinction event from afar, evaluating whether to intervene. Then you arrived. Humans, yes? A species unknown to us. Your actions have been unexpected." "We answered a call for help," Muraishi stated simply. "Precisely." Zivek's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. In 50,000 years of observing younger races, the Concordat has rarely witnessed a species risk themselves for another without established alliance or benefit. It is illuminating. Hope surged through the bridge crew as they realized the implications. Captain Nkosi stepped forward. Are you offering assistance? We are, Zivek confirmed. The Mechrovore are a known galactic parasite. They have consumed 17 civilizations in this sector alone. We have contained them previously, but their adaptive capabilities make permanent solutions difficult. Then why didn't you help the Luminarians? Morishi demanded, anger edging his voice. The Concordate's non-intervention protocols are complex, Zivek explained. We observe evolutionary patterns across millions of years. Sometimes painful as it may be, extinction is part of the cosmic cycle. That's cold logic, Morishi said. It is. Zivek's compound eyes seemed to focus more intently on the human. But your intervention has altered our assessment. A species willing to sacrifice for strangers demonstrates qualities worthy of preservation. The Sentinel vessels moved into attack formation, their hulls pulsing with energy. We will engage the Mechrovore, Zivek stated. Your fleet should withdraw to safer coordinates. Admiral Morishi shook his head. With respect, Nexus Coordinator, we started this fight. We'll finish it alongside you. For a moment, Zivek was silent. Then, as you wish. Targeting data is being transmitted to your vessels. Our weapons operate on principles your science may not fully comprehend, but they disrupt the Mechrovore collective intelligence. The display showed the Sentinel ships deploying weapons unlike anything the humans had seen, beams of coherent energy that didn't so much destroy the Mechrovore as unravel them, separating their component parts and rendering them inert. Coordinate. Our attack with theirs, Morishi ordered. Focus our remaining EMP weapons where their beams strike. The combined assault caught the Mechrovore swarm in a devastating crossfire. The machines, for the first time, showed signs of confusion, their adaptive algorithms overwhelmed by facing two radically different technological approaches simultaneously. Meanwhile, at Luminara, Colonel Orloff received the unexpected news. Sentinel Concordat vessels? Are you certain? Confirmed, Colonel, her communications officer replied. Admiral Morishi reports they've joined our effort against the Mechrovore. On the planet's surface, the news spread rapidly. High Protector Valan Trell approached Lieutenant Quan with visible agitation. The Sentinels have come? They asked, their voice trembling. They have watched our suffering for cycles, refusing to intervene. Our ancestors spoke of them as mythical guardians who observe but never act. Quan adjusted the final shield generator. Well, they're acting now. Because of you, Valan Trell responded. Because humanity proved something to them. As the planetary shields strengthened to full capacity, the Luminarians emerged from their shelters for the first time in weeks. They gathered in the central plaza of Luminar Prime, watching the battle unfold in the skies above. Human and Sentinel ships fighting side by side against the consumers of worlds. Elri Vos, the Luminarian engineer, stood beside Lieutenant Quan. When this is over, assuming we survive, nothing will be the same. The galaxy has changed today. Quan nodded, watching the flashes of distant weapons fire. That tends to happen when people decide to stand together instead of apart. In the nebula, Admiral Morishi's fleet fought with renewed vigor alongside their unexpected allies. The tide was turning against the Mechrovore, their swarm breaking. Apart under the combined assault, Zivek's hologram addressed Morishi once more. Admiral, we have never encountered humans before today. Your species was unknown to our records. This will be remedied. The Concordate will be reassessing many of its protocols after witnessing your actions. Morishi allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps that's for the best. No sentient being should face extinction alone while others watch from a distance. A provocative philosophy, Zivek replied. One that has cost you many lives today. The Admiral looked around his damaged bridge, at the determined faces of his crew. Some prices are worth paying. As the battle reached its climax, humanity had unknowingly changed its destiny. Their decision to answer a desperate plea had not only saved the Luminarians, but had attracted the attention of one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. The age of cosmic isolation was ending. A new era of interstellar cooperation was about to begin. All because humans refused to stand by while others suffered. 3 days after the battle, the combined human and Sentinel fleets maintained orbit around Luminara. The Mechrovore had been defeated, not destroyed completely, but driven back and contained within specialized quantum fields deployed by the Sentinels. On the planet's surface, in the gleaming halls of the Luminarian High Council chamber, representatives from 3 species gathered for the first formal diplomatic meeting. Admiral Muraishi stood with Captain Nkosi and Colonel Orlov, still bearing the cuts and bruises from battle. Across from them, High Protector Relentless led a delegation of Luminarian elders, their iridescent skin reflecting the chamber's crystalline light. At the third point of their triangular arrangement stood Nexus Coordinator Zvek with 3 other Sentinels, their crystalline exoskeletons clicking softly as they moved. "This gathering is unprecedented," Relentless began, raising all 4 arms in a ceremonial gesture. "Never in our recorded history have 3 distinct civilizations met in peace." Zvek stepped forward. "The Sentinel Concordat has observed galactic evolution for 100,000 of your years. We have cataloged the rise and fall of civilizations across this spiral arm. Yet never have we witnessed what transpired here." Admiral Muraishi nodded respectfully. "Humanity is young compared to your civilizations. We've only ventured beyond our solar system for a century, but we bring with us certain principles that nearly led to your annihilation," Zvek noted. 37 of your people perished in this conflict. 3 vessels destroyed completely. For what? A species you had never encountered." Muraishi's expression remained resolute. "For the same reason any decent person would run into a burning building to save a stranger. Because we could help. So we did. This concept..." Zvek's compound eyes shifted, refracting light in complex patterns. "We have terms for it in our language, but they are considered theoretical constructs, not practical governing principles for interstellar conduct. Empathy," Captain Nkosi said simply. "Compassion. Solidarity." Relentless moved to the center of the chamber, activating a holographic display. It showed Luminara as it had been before the Mechrovore attack, a world of breathtaking beauty with cities built in harmony with towering forests and crystalline oceans. "This is what you saved," they said softly. "Not just our lives, but our legacy, our art, our science, our philosophy, all would have been consumed, leaving no trace that we ever existed." The display shifted, showing the damage. Nearly half the planet transformed into metallic wasteland. "The reconstruction will take generations," Valan continued. "But we will rebuild, and we will remember." A Luminarian elder stepped forward, her skin shimmering with age. "We have prepared something for the humans who risked everything for strangers." She gestured, and attendants brought forward a crystalline sphere that pulsed with inner light. "This contains our complete scientific and cultural knowledge," she explained, "including technologies we believe will benefit your people. It is a small repayment for your sacrifice." Admiral Muraishi accepted the gift with a formal bow. "The knowledge will be treasured, but it was never our goal. We asked for nothing in return." "Which is precisely why you deserve everything we can offer," Relentless replied. Zvek moved closer, examining the humans with newfound curiosity. "The Concordat has maintained a policy of minimal intervention for millennia. We observe, we catalog, we occasionally contain threats like the Mechrovore, but we rarely engage directly with younger species." The Sentinel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Your actions have prompted debate within our hierarchy. Perhaps observation without action is not always wisdom. Perhaps involvement carries its own form of enlightenment. Colonel Orlov spoke up. In human history, we've learned this lesson repeatedly. Isolation leads to stagnation. Connection, even with its risks, leads to growth. The diplomatic gathering continued for hours, laying the groundwork for what would become known as the Luminara Accords, the first tripartite agreement between humanity, the Luminarians, and the ancient Sentinel Concordat. As the formal proceedings concluded, Lieutenant Quan found herself approached by Elry Vos, the Luminarian, engineer who had worked alongside her to save the planetary shields. "Your ships are preparing to depart soon," Elry observed. Quan nodded. "Earth will want a full report, and we need to begin repairs. But we'll be back. This is just the beginning." Elry hesitated before speaking again. "When we sent our distress call into the void, we truly believed no one would help. Our philosophers taught us that the universe is vast and indifferent, that each species ultimately faces its trials alone." "And now?" Quan asked. "Now we understand that the void is not empty. It contains courage and kindness that transcends the boundaries between worlds." Elry extended 2 of their 4 hands in a gesture of friendship. "Humanity has changed more than just our fate. You've changed our understanding of what's possible." Aboard the Zheng He, Admiral Muraishi stood at the observation deck watching as shuttles transferred personnel and supplies between ships. Captain Nkosi joined him, offering a tablet with preliminary repair estimates. "It will take months to restore the fleet to full capacity," she reported. "But the technological exchange with the Luminarians should accelerate the process." Muraishi nodded, his gaze fixed on the recovering planet below. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made friends." Nkosi smiled. "Is that all?" "Tell them the galaxy is larger and more wondrous than we imagined, but also more dangerous. And tell them that humanity's decision to extend a hand in friendship rather than a fist in conquest has opened doors we never knew existed." As the fleet prepared for the journey home, news of their actions spread across the stars. On 1,000 worlds unknown to Earth, species both ancient and young received the transmissions, stories of a newcomer species that had challenged the established order of non-intervention. In the great galactic library maintained by the Sentinel Concordat, a new entry was created. Humanity, a young species of remarkable contradiction, technologically adolescent yet morally advanced. Physically, fragile yet unflinching in the face of overwhelming odds, they have altered the course of galactic history not through conquest or technological superiority, but through their inexplicable willingness to risk everything for strangers. Further observation is warranted. They may be the catalyst the galaxy has awaited for millennia. On Earth, as news of the Luminara incident spread, humanity looked to the stars with new understanding. They were not alone in the cosmos, and their actions had consequences beyond imagination. They had answered a desperate plea, and in doing so, had announced their presence to the galaxy not as conquerors, not as victims, but as helpers, as a species that extended its hand to the fallen and stood firm against the darkness. In that moment of crisis, humanity had revealed its true nature, and the watching universe would never be the same.